Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video for a final look breakdown of the NFL Week 8 main slate on Draftkings. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports daily fantasy sports slates. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you guys again for all the support. It is greatly appreciated. The easiest way to support me with all the content being free is leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos and know when I go live. I'll be live streaming 1 hour before lock on my YouTube channel, going over everything, answering any questions you guys have. So make sure to check out the live stream Sunday morning, guys. If you guys cannot watch the videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below. It's just the DK DFS show. But with that all out of the way, let's jump into the video. So, not a whole lot has changed here. Looking at the Vegas odds, we'll go over them more, I guess, on the live stream. Talked about it in the early look video. We'll go over them in the live stream. There's a few games with some weather concerns. Again, we'll talk about that. But let's just jump into it. Again, we'll talk cash plays. We'll talk GPP plays. So at the top, Mahomes and Kansas City. Mahomes is at 8-1. I told you guys in the early look video, I'm just not getting to anyone in Kansas City. I think they're strictly GPP plays. They're risky GPP plays at that because I just have no confidence. I have no confidence that the Jets can score points to make Kansas City have to put the foot on the gas pedal. So, if you target some Kansas City players, if you go to guys like Hill or Travis Kelce, I think you got to hope that they score early because if not, I think it's going to be a lot of the ground game in the second half. That is my worry. You can always go to these guys in GPPs, but I'm just not going to get to them on this slate. Russell Wilson's in a tougher spot here against San Francisco, but he has just been so consistent. If you just go through his game logs, 34, 34, 39, 24, 25, 35 fantasy points. He's been doing it on the ground as well, which is good to see. If you wanted to bank on the talent here with Wilson and either Metcalf or Lockett, I'm perfectly fine with that. I think they're more suited for GPPs because of the more difficult matchup here against San Francisco. Aaron Rodgers at 7-6. So my one worry with this is there is some weather concerns in this game with it being played at Green Bay. So that's something to keep an eye on, to monitor. But I love the matchup here against Minnesota, who has really struggled defensively. We have a guy in Davante Adams who is priced up, but the upside is through the roof with him. So, Rodgers, Davante Adams stack is something that is always in play for GPPs. Can you play Aaron Rodgers in cash at this price? I think you can probably save a little bit more money with some guys we'll talk about. So fringe cash playable, there is enough value. I think you if you want to, you can go that way. But I think right now it is more suited for GPPs. The upside is there with Rodgers and Davante Adams, obviously. Now, I like the price of Lamar a lot. I don't necessarily like the matchup here against Pittsburgh, but 7-4 just seems a little bit too cheap. I know he's been a little bit up and down this season, but just a guy that the floor is high because of his rushing ability. 3 of the last 4 games, 83, 53, and 108 yards in the ground. And again, like I said, it's just a price thing with Lamar Jackson. I feel pretty good about him. I think you can go there in either cash or GPP. I know the matchup is not the best, but the reason I think he's in play in both formats is just the price point plus his floor with his rushing ability. Josh Allen, 7K, has been a little up and down. He had a really hot start to the year. It's kind of cooled off a bit. The match against New England is not necessarily the best, so I think he's more suited for GPPs. Herbert at 6-9 had an amazing week last week, went for over 40 fantasy points. The matchup here against Denver is not the best. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible. I think he's a fine option. I don't know if I'm going to prioritize Herbert. We do have in my opinion, an underpriced Keenan Allen. I think will be pretty popular in cash games. If you want to go Herbert, Keenan Allen stack, that is perfectly fine with me, but I think he's a little pricey for me. Tannehill at 6-8 against Cincinnati. My concern is if they play from ahead in this game. Again, they are a run-first team, so that's the worry. It's all about, I guess, how you think this game flows. If you think Tennessee does fall behind in this game, then I think Tannehill is in play. But for me, I'm just a little bit worried about the game flow, and if they do play from ahead, we know it's going to be a heavy dose of a guy like Derrick Henry. Big Ben at 6'6", I would just rather pay the extra $800 for Lamar Jackson on the opposite side, so I'm not going to get to him. We have Goff, Stafford, Breeze. They're just like, nah, they're okay plays. Burrow at 6'2" is someone I think even with the price bump is still in play. Now, my concern here is they do have 3 starting offensive linemen out for this game. That's obviously a worry. Still no Joe Mixon, too, so that is a little bit concerning. But the last 2 games, 313 yards, 406 yards through the air. And like I talked about, the touchdown variance did go in his favor the last game with 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. The matchup is really, really good here against Tennessee, who has also struggled defensively. So I think Burrow's in play. I think all 3 Cincinnati receivers are viable on this slate. So you can definitely stack it up if you want to. Like an interesting stack is like Burrow, maybe 1 or 2 of his receivers, and run it back with a guy like Derrick Henry. I think that's a nice way to build a GPP lineup. Either way, I think Burrow is in play in both formats for the price, the matchup. Baker at 6'1", I know he finally had a good game. Some people, are saying that he's probably better off without Odell. I don't know how I feel about that. The matchup is good here, but we know Cleveland's a run-first team, and the price did jump on him. I'm probably going to pump the brakes. I need to see it more consistently from Baker, so probably not for me in this one. Cousins against Green Bay. He's been very up and down. The last game he got there because of the garbage time. He started absolutely terribly. So I think he's more suited for GPPs. The price point's fair, but he's been shaky this year. So probably can't pull the trigger on him in cash. Rivers, I know he's good last week, but I'm not going there. Foles against New Orleans is probably a pass. Cam Newton mentioned, it's an interesting buy low opportunity here. I know he was not good there against San Francisco, 3 picks. But he's a guy that does have some upside, and he's been running it a lot more this year on the ground. So, again, I think it's an interesting buy low opportunity here. Buffalo's is not a bad matchup either. So, if you think Cam bounces back here, now he is missing a couple of his receivers with Edelman, who did get ruled out, Harry as well. So there's some cheap receivers which you could pair Cam with. Can I go there in cash? I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on him in cash just because of the up and down play, but I do like his upside for GPPs at this price. Tua, we haven't seen, obviously, enough from him for me to be confident in him cash games. I think he's a viable GPP play. The matchup is not necessarily the best, but the price point is fair if you want to take a shot on him for GPPs. Carr is the guy for me right now. If you're going to punt quarterback for cash games, I think it's Derek Carr. He's been really consistent this year. 24, 27, and 20 fantasy points the last 3 games. And this is a good matchup. Cleveland has really struggled to defend the pass. And I think he's a safe play at this price. I don't think he's going to kill you. And I think he does have upside in this matchup. So I do like Derek Carr a decent amount here at that price. I think suited in both formats. Jimmy G, I know people have talked about him for cash. I think it's an okay play. I personally feel more comfortable with Derek Carr. San Francisco is still a run-first team. And he's just been also kind of like Cousins, just shaky play this year. Has not been the best. Now, did play decent there against New England, but I don't know how I feel about it. I think he's a fine option if that's the way you want to go, but I feel a little bit more comfortable going with Carr. I see the positives for Jimmy G, right? It's a great match against Seattle, who has not been able to stop anyone. So if you want to go Jimmy G and pair him with either Kittle or maybe a guy like Ayuk, I get it. I think it's still in play, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with a guy like Carr if I'm going to punt quarterback. And that about rounds it out for the quarterback position. So let's move on to running back. Kamara at the top at 8-2. Well, we did get news that Michael Thomas is once again out. I don't know when he's going to come back. I thought he was going to be back for sure this week, but guess not. The matchup's not great here in Chicago. Chicago is pretty good defensively, but no Thomas, no Sanders. I think they're relying on Kamara. And like I said, he is a wide receiver and a running back combined. 3 of the last 4 games, 14, 10, and 8 targets. He's just a main piece of this offense. So if you have the salary day to Kamara, I don't hate the play, but I don't necessarily think he's a must play. I think he is suited in both formats, in cash and GPPs, but don't think he's a must play at that price. Henry at 8K, it is a pretty good spot here against Cincinnati. If you think they're playing from ahead, Derrick Henry is just... I guess my reason, or my one downside with Derrick Henry is just no real involvement in the passing game. But if they're playing from ahead, like they will, like he has upside to go for 30 touches. And it just seems like once or twice a year he just completely breaks the slate. We've kind of seen that twice already so far in the first 7 games with 30 and 43 fantasy points. Now, I don't know if he's going to continue this level of production with the touchdowns, right? 2, 2, 2, and 1. So what is that? 7 touchdowns in the last 4 games. That's probably not going to continue. But he is their workhorse back, and it's a good spot. I think he's a guy that is suited in both formats, but there is some risk involved with Derrick Henry. Now, Dalvin Cook looks like he's good to go here at 7.5K. I like this game as part of a game stack, and Cook is the guy that is a workhorse back. Now, obviously, some concern coming off the injury, the groin injury, but he's a guy that can get it done on the ground and through the air. The price point's fair. I don't know if a ton of people get to him this week, but definitely I think is in consideration. We have no Aaron Jones. We'll talk about Jamal Williams, who I think is one of the better plays in the slate. Kareem Hunt, I think, is going to be pretty popular on cash games, and I agree. Right, it's a really good matchup. He's a guy that is going to be the bell cow back, probably 60 to 70% of the snaps there, and a guy that can get it done through the air as well as a decent pass catching back. Still no Nick Chubb, so all those kind of points to Kareem Hunt being a pretty solid play. I think he's a guy that will be pretty popular in cash, but I get it for the matchup and the usage. Taylor at 6'6", it's just not enough touches for me. 12 and 12 carries last couple games. It's a tricky one. I think he's not out of play because, again, the Colts have a really good offensive line. It's a really good match here against Detroit. But just the touches, right? Only 12 carries in back-to-back games is not amazing, and the price is not great at a discount. So Taylor's in play, but I think right now more suited for GPPs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 6'5" with Le'Veon there. I just don't think I can do it. Now, sure, right, this is a game they're probably playing from ahead, but if I'm going to take a shot on one of these Chiefs backs, I think I would just take the shot on Le'Veon in the revenge spot for a couple $1,000s cheaper. Connor, not necessarily the best spot. I think he's more suited for GPPs, but he's still their bell cow back. Can get it done on the ground as well as on through the air. So I'm fine if you want to go to Connor and GPPs for the price point. Again, no Chubb. We'll talk about some San Francisco running backs here. Yeah, no Joe Mixon. So we'll talk about Gio in a sec here. Josh Jacobs at 6'2" against Cleveland. Cleveland has struggled to defend the pass. Has been a little bit better on to defending the ground game. So he's one of those, it's how you think the game plays out, I guess. If you think the Raiders are playing from ahead, I think you can definitely look to Jacobs, who probably has upside for 20 to 25 touches if they are playing from ahead. If they fall behind, kind of like they did against Tampa Bay, he gets phased out a bit, right? Only 10 carries, only 3 catches. So that's concerned with Jacobs, but the price point is fair. I think is someone more, suited for GPP. Seattle running back situation, this is something to keep an eye on. It seems like all their backs are currently questionable, so we'll go over Seattle, I guess, at the end here. Jamal Williams with no Aaron Jones, I think looks like one of the better plays on the slate for running back. Is he a must play? No, but I like the floor here. He played a majority of the game the last game. Some people thought A.J. Dillon would get a lot more work. He did not. It was basically Jamal Williams playing, again, the majority of the game. He had 19 carries, 4 catches, and 5 targets. And like I said, it's a really, really good matchup here. So I think Jamal Williams looks like a really nice play at this price. I think suited for both formats in cash and GPP. Let's see. Montgomery at 5'9". I guess he's playable because he's going to play a majority of the game. Right? He's getting the carries, getting the targets, but he's just someone I think is like a fine option. I'm not going to go out of my way to play him. I'm not messing with the Rams running back situation. Now, Giovanni Bernard at 5'8". I know we got the price hike, right? Over $1,000 price hike, but I still think he's in play here. Again, it's a good spot, and he's a guy that's going to get usage on the ground as well as through the air. Now, my concern with Giovanni Bernard is they're missing 3 offensive linemen, so that does worry me a bit here. But I think the floor is somewhat high in him because of his usage in the past game. He had 5 catches and 5 targets. So, Gio, I think you can go to in both formats. I don't think a ton of people get to him. I think, probably the chalk cash game running backs right now are going to be Hunt and Jamal Williams and maybe a guy like Derrick Henry. So, I don't know if a ton of people get to Gio, but I think he is certainly in play. The San Francisco running back situation, I just don't know if I can trust it. McKinnon was supposed to be their workhorse back last game, and he had 3 carries. Now, sure, Jeff Wilson did go down, so they're pretty thin at running back. They still have Hasty, the rookie. If you want to take a shot on McKinnon, I get it. Again, he's a good passing back. It's a good matchup, but it's hard to trust. And it's not like you're getting him an amazing discount either. So that's the worry there with McKinnon. Let's see. Other options here. Melvin Gordon, a revenge spot against the Chargers, I think is okay, but Denver has struggled offensively. Swift did get, they kind of phased out Kerryon Johnson. They still have AP, though, and the price is not amazing. The matchup's not great, so I'm probably not going to go there. Gaskin, I get it if you get to him at 5-2. The matchup's not great, but he's a guy that is playing majority of the game. Last 2 games, 16 and 18 carries, 4 and 5 targets through the air. The price is cheap enough where I think he is a consideration here if you want a cheaper running back. So yeah, Gaskin, I think you can go to at that price point. The 2 Chargers running backs against Denver, they're fine, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play either of them. Ingram's doubtful, but still, I'm not overly excited about either Dobbins or Edwards. It probably will be about a 50-50 split. The matchup's not great, and again, Lamar keeps it himself a lot, so not super excited about either of them. Le'Veon, if I was going to take a shot at a Chiefs running back, it probably would be him. It's a revenge spot here. He's cheap enough. Again, they're probably going to be playing from ahead most of this game, so I think you can look to Le'Veon. I think more suited, though, for GPPs. And I think that about wraps it up for running back. So let's move on to wide receiver. At the top, I still like Devontae Adams. Again, I've got to monitor the weather situation there in Green Bay. But game 1 against Minnesota, he had 14 catches, 17 targets. Last game against Houston, 13 catches, 16 targets. He's just a guy that they're going to look to a ton. And like I said, Minnesota's really, really struggled. So sure, you're going to have to pay premium for him. I think the price point does lower the ownership on him. But in my opinion, there's enough value to get him in there if you want to. So love the upside there, Devontae, if you can get to him. Metcalf and Lockett are both fine options here against San Francisco. It's not the best matchup, but the Seattle offense has been really, really just playing well. And running back, they have a ton of injuries, so maybe they rely on Russell Wilson and the passing game a little bit more. We still have no Michael Thomas. Thielen at 7-2, I like as well. Did only have 3 catches and 5 targets, but that was because Justin Jefferson just took over that game. I still like the upside here on Thielen. He's a guy that's going to be targeted a ton, and this game is a pretty high over-under. Definitely game stackable. So like the upside here on Thielen. Last game, or the game 1 against Green Bay, had 6 catches, 8 targets for over 100 yards. Now, sure, a lot of that was in garbage time, but it doesn't matter as long as he gets the points, right? So Thielen is a guy I think you can look to at that price point. Looks like I think Robinson got ruled out or doubtful, so it doesn't look like he's going to go. We'll talk about some cheap receivers. I think there's a lot of cheap receivers in play on the slate. A.J. Brown has been playing really, really well here at 6.9K. It's a good matchup. The target's been so consistent, 8, 9, 7, and 8. I think he is certainly playable. Now, will he continue to average like over a touchdown a game like the last 3 games? Probably not, but I think he is certainly viable on this slate. Other options here, again, Hill, Kelsey, Mahomes, they're just all GPP plays. I'm just not confident that the Jets can score enough. Galladay at 6.6, I think is fine because of his price. He's a guy that's been, pretty safe, pretty consistent, 7, 8, 6, and 7 targets. He's a guy that can look to in the red zone, over 100 yards in back-to-back games. I think he's a fine option, but I'm probably not going to go out of my way to play him. Boyd played really well the last game and did get a price hike, but I still think he's in play here. The targets have been there, right? 8, 6, 8, and 13 targets. And like I said, this is a game that Tennessee has really struggled defensively. Definitely a game I think you can stack up here if you want to. So I have mentioned Boyd. We'll talk about a couple of the other cheaper receivers. Jefferson, if you can't get to Thielen, or if you wanna just play Jefferson outright, I think it is perfectly fine. Right? He had an amazing week last week against Atlanta, 9 catches for 11 targets, over 150 yards. He's actually had over 100 yards in 3 of the last 4 games. So he's kind of breaking out here. If you like the upside a little bit more on Jefferson than Thielen, I think that's perfectly fine. I still feel a little safer with Thielen, but I think you can look at Jefferson if you need the savings. Both Kupp and Woods, I think, make for decent cash plays here at 6.5 and 6.3. The matchup's fair. I just think they're a little bit underpriced, and both are heavily utilizing that Rams offense. Keenan Allen's got to be really popular in cash games, and I agree. I think he is definitely one of the better cash game plays just because of the targets, right? He's this guy that's double-digit targets, it feels like every single week. That game against New Orleans, he got injured, so don't be worried about that. Yeah, I just like the targets there for Allen. I like the price. I think he does look like one of the better cash game plays. Below this, it doesn't like this next range of wide receivers is not great. So for me, it's probably either spending up or spending down. Like I'm not gonna get to Hollywood Brown. Ayuk, I could actually see getting him at 5'8". The matchup is amazing, and there is some injuries there for San Francisco. So him, Kittle, the top receiving options in a good spot. I could see getting to him at that price. Probably not Parker for me. Against the Rams, Higgins at 5'6" is just in a weird price range. He has been playing well. I personally probably feel a little bit more comfortable getting up to either Boyd or getting down to AJ Green. But I think all three, since the receivers are in play here. Jarvis with no Odell. I don't know if his role necessarily changes a whole lot. It is a good spot. I'm okay with it, but I'm probably not going to go out of my way to play him either. Deontay Johnson got the big price bump. The matchup's not the best, so not super excited about that. Other options here. Again, Sanders is still out. No Michael Thomas as well. Yeah, this next range I'm not overly excited about. Traquan Smith is the number one wide receiver, but he still only had 4 catches, 4 targets that last week. The matchup's not amazing. Aguilar has had, I think, a touchdown in the last 3 games. This play's kind of dependent on if Bryan Edwards misses. If Edwards misses, I think you can look to a guy like Nelson Aguilar. Did have 9 targets the last game. If Edwards plays, I wouldn't be as excited about it. Now, AJ Green, I think, is one of the better cheap plays here at this price. 11 and 13 targets, 7 and 8 catches the last couple games. And like I said, it's a really good spot. So I like AJ Green here at this price. I know there is some risk, right, because he's a guy that seems to always be dealing with injuries. He's getting up there in age, but I'm willing to take that risk at this price and with this matchup. So I do like AJ Green a lot here. I think playable in both formats. Other options at wide receiver, going to have no Edelman. We'll talk about some cheap New England receivers. Anthony Miller with no Robinson. I think him and Mooney are both viable options here. Both should play majority of the game there for Chicago. Higgins is a guy I think will be pretty popular. He's going to be starting wide receiver here with no Odell Beckham Jr. He had 6 catches and 6 targets. The matchup's good. I think he is playable in both formats. I think he will be somewhat popular as a value play. Is he a must play? No. There's a lot of other value wide receivers, which we'll talk about. MVS is one of those if you want to buy low, right? 3.8K. He had no catches last game. He's still playing a majority of the game. I know he hasn't been amazing, but the matchup is so good here. I don't think a lot of people get to him. I think he definitely bounce back. So I think MVS is certainly in play as a cheap wide receiver. Let's see. Other options like Bird with Edelman and Harry out he's already been playing a majority of the game, but I think that's maybe a slight boost to him. Probably gets a little bit more targets. 3.7 is a fair price. I'm perfectly fine with him. Hamler with possibly no. Where's Tim Patrick? Tim Patrick, I believe, is going to be out in this one. They haven't listed as questionable. We'll see if Patrick misses. You could look to punt with Hamler, but again, Denver has kind of struggled offensively. Again, Mooney, talked about him and Miller. I probably like the price a little bit better on Mooney than Miller. So again, no Allen Robinson. I think Mooney is certainly in play here at that price. Myers, he's going to play majority of the game with the injuries for New England. I think he is certainly a viable punt option. Braxton Berrios with looking like no Jameson Crowder. I like at 3.5. The games that Crowder has missed, Berrios has played a majority of the game, and he's been targeted a decent amount, 8, 4, 7 targets. We know the Jets can be playing from behind, so I think Berrios is certainly in play as a punt wide receiver. You can look to Bourne, who's probably the number 2 here for San Francisco. That price point in the matchup makes him in play. So like I said, there's a lot of cheap wide receivers in play here. It's going to be tricky to kind of get to the right ones, but there's a lot of guys like below 4K that are in play here. Jeff Smith, Mims. Let's go to the Jets, I guess, really quick. I think Denzel Mims will probably be the most popular play here after that 4-catch, 7-target game at 3.2K. We have no Perriman. Again, Crowder looks doubtful. So the top 3 receivers here are Berrios, Smith, and Mims. And I think all 3 are in play. None of those guys have to do a lot to get you there. And we know the Jets are going to be playing behind, so they're going to have to air it out. I think all three are viable punts here at their respective prices. Other cheap options, let's see. Is there anyone else I want to bring up? Probably not. I think that about wraps it up. Robinson at 3-1. Again, he still is playing a decent amount of the game. Played 67% of the offensive snaps the last game. I think you can punt with him because obviously he doesn't need a whole lot to get you there. So there's a lot of guys we just went over there for cheap wide receivers. There's a ton. There really is. Like below 4K. Well, let's go over those guys again, right? So, I guess Higgins is a viable punt. MVS, Bird, Hamler, Mooney, I think looks pretty good. Myers, all the Jets receivers, all three of those guys. So even Robinson, there is a lot of value here. So it's going to be an interesting slate for roster construction. But I think, again, it's the wide receivers at the top and the guys at cheap. That's where I'm looking to. Tight end, let's finish it up here. Kittle the top, I like his upside. Again, San Francisco are pretty thin at wide receiver, so maybe they rely a little bit more on Kittle. The targets have been there for him. It's a great matchup. So if you have a salad for Kittle, I have absolutely no issue with that. Kelsey, again, same thing I said about Mahomes, same thing as I said about Hill. Fine GVP option, but I'm just not confident in the Jets scoring enough. Andrews, I'm not going to get to against Pittsburgh. Waller's the guy for me right now at 5.6K, and I like the pairing with him and Derek Carr for a cash game build. You can even pair them in GPPs, right? If you want to go Carr, Waller, and run it back with a guy like Kareem Hunt, like all three of those guys I think will be somewhat popular, and I like that for a GPP lineup. You can do it in cash too if you want to. The targets have been so good for him, 8, 16, 11, 7, and 9. That one game against New England, they just, their whole defensive plan was to stop Waller, so I'm not worried about that. And like I said, Cleveland has struggled to defend tight ends. They've struggled to defend the pass. I think Waller is a really nice play there at that price, and that's where I'm looking to right now at tight end. Now, there are other options. Waller's certainly not a must play. Let's see. Hockenson, Gesicki, and Fant are probably not for me. I don't think I'm going to get to Jimmy Graham at that price. Juju Smith, it's kind of a buy low, I guess. The price is slowly coming down on him. He was a guy that was like over 5K a couple weeks ago, now at 4-1. The matchup's good here against Cincinnati. He's a guy that they look to in the red zone. So I think Juju Smith is in play at that price if you want to get a cheaper tight end. Both Cleveland tight ends with Njoku and Harrison Bryant are definitely viable here. Let me go to Cleveland. Where is Harrison Bryant? If you guys checked out the live stream last week, I told you guys it was Bryant for me as the punt tight end because we got that news that he was going to be a starting tight end. Both are viable. I wouldn't expect two touchdowns from Bryant. Njoku also had a touchdown. Both are in play, but I think I like the price a little bit more on Bryant than Njoku. Let's see. Is Higbee still out? Higbee status is game time decision. If he does miss, like Everett is a viable punt too, who did play majority of the game, had 4 catches and 5 targets and a touchdown. So I think he would be in play if Higbee is out. Burton is a guy that the Colts have been wanting to get the ball to, 5, 6, and 5 targets. The matchup is good here, so I think he is certainly playable as a cheap tight end. I think that about wraps it up. So, yeah, again, there's some cheap plays if you want to punt tight end. For me, if you want to follow my lead, it's probably Darren Waller. And you can also spend all the way up at Kittle. That's kind of my thoughts with tight end. Finally, we'll finish it up with defense. So we'll talk about this more on my live stream as well, but the Chiefs are obviously the safe option at 4-5 going up against the Jets. If you have the salary to get them, I think they're a safe play, but defense is such a high variance position that, like, I'm okay just punting it. And that's what I do most of the time. I punt defense and just hope that, the defense I pick doesn't kill me because defense is, again, it's just such a high variance position. So I like punting, using that money to spend up in other positions, and then just hoping the defense doesn't kill me. So if you can get to the Chiefs, I think they're a safe option. Other defensive options, like I'm not super excited about the Chargers at 4K. You can look to the Rams going up against Tua if you think he struggles at 3-8. The Saints, I get it, right? Chicago has struggled offensively. No Allen Robinson. I get the play there if you have the salary for them. Below that, if you're kind of looking in the mid-range, I think probably the Bears, just because, they're a team that is obviously really good defensively, and we still have no Michael Thomas, still no Emmanuel Sanders. So I think the Bears, playing at home, Drew Brees does kind of struggle playing on the road. It's going to be cold, so I think the Bears are a fine mid-range play. If you want a punt defense, where I'm looking at, I guess, is probably either the Dolphins or the Bengals. Neither I'm overly excited about, but I think they can get me a few points, and that's all I really need. So Dolphins, Bengals, if you want a punt defense, that's probably where I'm looking. But that about wraps up for the video. So I do appreciate you guys coming to check out the video. I will be live streaming 1 hour before lock on my YouTube channel, going over everything. So make sure to check out the live stream Sunday morning, guys. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. So thanks again, guys. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you all in the live stream Sunday morning.